Good morning, everyone. Today we seeing the new topic, that is the basics on propagation signal. There are different parameters under the propagation signals, different types of antennas, some obstacles, some noise, some modulation signals will becomes under these basic parameters. The propagation signal, the propagation signal, the communication word will becomes in between the propagation signals. The actual importance of communication, the means it will be comes in signals. The communication means the process of exchanging information and conveying thoughts, ideas, and feelings to another. The communication between human being, it can be verbal, non-verbal, via body language, facial expressions, some in written words also. This type of some signals nowadays it will be developed, and we see in the already generations, that is the up to the 4G and future scope of 5G, and that all will be some comes under the some propagated signals, then and then will be gets the some communications. In communications, the human communication took some turn in 19th century. The electricity was discovered. The first telegraph, it will be invented almost in 1844. Then developed in radios. Then developed wireless telegraph. After radio transmissions, some television was invented. Radar, some color TV. After that, some communication satellites. And for that purpose, we required some transducers, some sensors for the collecting of the informations from the input signal. It will be transmits in between the transmitter and receiver some communication channel for the medium. It will be reducing the some noise. That is the some modulation techniques, and we get the receiving signals. This will be given some communication system images. The it will be some discussion overview will be. This is some historical. Already we played such type of games, and this is the act and sharing and exchanging the information with someone. For example, with speaking, writing, sending radio signals. This is the some developing images, some discussion, speaking. After that, this is the wired related. After that, nowadays we are using some mobiles. That is some generations will develop, and we given the message within second to the transmitter to receiver by using some base station, master station, already seen using of some protocols. And this is the some gaps. This is the some find out the we got the some developed signals by the using of some communication system. Here, signal propagation ranges given the basic diagram. There are three signal propagation range: transmission, detection, and interference. The transmission range, it is in certain radius. It is in certain radius. This is the first circular circle from the sender, and sender transmission is possible. That is the receiver received the signals with an error rate. It is low enough to able to communicate and can also act as an sender. This will be transmitted signal as an sender. and the communication will be possible under this transmission, and it having the low error rates. After that detection, that is the three ranges in this propagation signal propagation ranges. In detection range, the detection of the signal is possible. No communication will be possible under the detection. This is the second radius detection of the transmission. That is, the transmitted power is large enough to differ from background noise. However, the error rate is too high to establish communication. In the detection range, having the high error rate, and it also required a high transmission power. And the last circle, that is the interference range. This is the third larger radius. The sender may interference with other transmission by adding to the background noise. The receiver will be not able to detect the signals, but the signals may disturb other signals. The it will be detected and adds the some background noise. This is the related to some signal propagation ranges. The interference, someone is speaking on mic, and it will be broadcasting by using the some antennas. And someone is in listening. Another station will be some using of different types of antenna. And in between the transmitter to receiver, the other signals, whatever these mobile signals and any other signals, it will be crossed with each other. That is called as, and we are calling that is the interference signals. And in that case, the disturbance will be happens in some mobile communication. We are calling the crosstalk will be happening between these signals. This is signal propagation. The images will be give the detailed meanings. That is some shadowing, reflections, refraction, scattering, and diffraction. The shadowing signal, the fixed wall, some signals will be comes on that fixed wall. Then it will be shadowing the signals on that wall. The reflection, the reflection is the change in directions of a wavefront and interface between two different media. That is this is the one media, and after that it will be goes in another media, so that the wavefront returns into medium from which it originated. After that, refraction. The refraction, there are different types of media. It will be enters from one media to other media. This is the change in direction of propagation of any wave as a result of its traveling at different speeds at different points along the wavefront. This is the given scattering signal. One signal will be originated, and after that some scattered signals means multiple signals will be scattered in everywhere. And after that, the diffraction will be given. That is the various phenomenon, as well as it works in color phenomenon when wave encounters an obstacle or a sleep. It is defined as the bending of waves. The signal will be bends around the corners and obstacle or through an aperture into the region of geometrical. Multipath propagation. The signal can take many different paths between sender and receiver. due to reflection, scattering and diffraction. This is a signal at sender. This is some base station. The signal will be sending one community as well as we consider this is the one office. In that the offices will be give the signal to the one another receiver. The signal will be comes in line of sight, and when comes fixed obstacle, that is the wall, any other trees, any other cars, and that signal will be scattered as well as replay, and that scattered and reflected signals will be means this is a not some obstacles will be happening. This the building and any offices will becomes here in any different situations. That car will be receiver side will becomes here, the base station will be get some crosstalk, some interference will be happens in the this type of signals. And this is the some multipath pulses, that is the LOS pulses, means it works in receiver side. The signal at sender will be given and receiver side, because there are different types of obstacles, and that is called as loss, scattered loss, bending loss, by using of some reflection and scattering, and because there are different types of scattered as well as some bends in the signal. But the bends when it will be works in LOS, that is the line of sight. That is related to multipath propagation. Now we moving toward the modulation. The basic modulation we know, the amplitude modulations, frequency modulation, phase modulation. The amplitude modulation, that is the actual, there are different type of modulation process. That is the also mainly analog, it works in analog as well as pulse modulation, and this comes under the analog modulation. And pulse modulation comes under the some two parts, analog as well as digital. It also comes under the PAM, PWM, PPM, PCM, ADM. That type of comes under the pulse modulation. Here we take in basic schemes, that is the modulation. It comes under the continuous wave modulation, that is the analog modulation. In that case, the carrier is usually in sinusoidal as well as sine wave or cosine wave. The frequency is much higher than the frequency of the modulation signal. The amplitude modulation of the carrier is varied in proportion with some instantaneous amplitude of the baseband signal. The frequency is keeping as well as phase and frequency is keeping constant. In frequency modulation, the frequency of the carrier is varied in proportion with the instantaneous amplitude of the baseband signals. But in frequency modulation, amplitude and phase will be constant. In phase modulation, phase of the carrier is modified in proportion with the some instantaneous amplitude of the baseband signal, keeping the other two parameters constant. That is the continuous wave modulation is the type of analog modulation. And this is the some basic schemes we have to require for the propagation signals purpose. For the understanding purpose, here we given one video, that is the modulation video. We playing that video.
Modulation. We often hear this word when speaking about communication systems. It is a simple concept often overlooked or misunderstood but very important to understand since it forms the base for wireless communications. In this video, we will see what is modulation, its basic types and importance of modulation. Let's get started. Generally, when we describe a signal, we talk about its three important characteristics: frequency, amplitude, and phase. Modulation is a simple process in which a carrier signal of constant phase, frequency, and amplitude is modified by non-linear input signal. As a result, we will have a signal output which changes its characteristics corresponding with modulating signal. In most wireless communication systems, audio signal of frequency ranging from 20 Hz to 20 kHz will be used as modulating signal. Now let's take a look at the three basic types of modulation. Frequency modulation. In this type of modulation, frequency of the carrier signal will be altered with respect to modulating signal. As a result, we will obtain modified frequency signal in output. Amplitude modulation. Here, amplitude of carrier signal will be altered with respect to modulating signal, and we will get amplitude modified signal as output. Phase modulation. Phase of the carrier signal will be modified in this method, and we will obtain phase modified signal in the output. Apart from these three, there are many other modulation techniques like DSP, SSP, VSP, QAM, ASK, FSK, PSK, and much more. Let's take a look at the three main advantages of modulation. Number 1. To transmit the signal to long distances. Low frequency signals like audio or any other signals are incapable of propagating to long distance on their own. When modulating them with a high frequency carrier signal, the modulated output will obtain high frequency characteristics, and as a result, it can propagate longer and in turn provides more range to the user. This can be simply explained using famous stone and paper analogy. Imagine a paper as your audio signal, and when you throw it in the air, it's so obvious that paper will not go any distance since it lacks the weight. Now wrap the paper around a stone, which represents your carrier signal. When you throw the stone wrapped paper now, it will go much further due to the stone's weight. Modulation works the same way as paper and stone, where the high frequency carrier signal provides the ability to reach longer distance for audio signal. Number 2. To reduce the size of antenna. Antennas are used to propagate the signal into atmosphere. Consider an unmodulated audio signal of frequency 20 kHz. The antenna height for propagating this signal would be of 3.75 km, and it's totally impossible to build such antenna. However, if you modulate them to 1 MHz, then you need an antenna of 7.5 meters only. That is totally possible. Number 3. Avoid mixing of signals. We all know that frequency of audio signal ranges from 20 Hz to 20 kHz. So if two devices send out unmodulated audio signals, it will result in mixing, and eventually the receiver will receive some gibberish audio which will be of no use. But when modulated, signals from device 1 and 2 will propagate in individual reserved bands, and therefore preventing the audio signals from mixing. Apart from these, modulation holds other advantages like multiplexing signals, reducing noise distortions, reducing the equipment complexity, and so on. And that is why you need modulation. Hope this video taught you something valuable. Check out the links in video description for more resources on modulation. Hit the thumbs up button if you like this video, and do share it with others.
This is all about the modulation. I think all of you cleared the modulation, amplitude modulation, frequency and phase modulation. This is the diagrammatically we presented here modulation and demodulation. Some digital data will be given to the modulation signal. Here is the some analog and baseband signal, and we are adding the radio carrier signal. This is for the transmitter purpose, and the transmitter signal will be given to the demodulation purpose. Means here we are adding the carrier signal, and The modulated and demodulated signal will be synchronized with each other, and we get the some receiving signal from the receiver side. This is the modulation and demodulation. For example, here microphone, when you speaking loudly in microphone, the some signals will be generated, and that signals having some noise, some disturbances, and that signal will be given to the modulator, and that modulated signal will be given to the amplifier. It amplifies the signals, it increases the strength of signal, due to the transmitting antenna, and that transmitting antenna signals will be received from the demodulator side, and here we adding the some carrier signals, because we have to reduce the noise, we have to remove the disturbances, and that demodulated signal, whatever they removed the noise, and that again we given the amplifier. If any other noise will be happens, any other noise will be remain as it is, then you have to increase the signal strength, and then again you give to the loudspeaker. This is about the all our basics requirement of propagation signal for the communication system, because this is a very essential for the mobile communication, for as well as mobile confidence, because the we have to required, we know the details of propagation signals, hence we studied what is the basic requirement and basic needs of propagation signal, and this is the details about the propagation signal. Thank you.